Guys, I got to tell you, that was that hurt right there. That you're telling me that there's no audio here and I am just going off of this. Read the bottom of the chats. All right, we're here now, guys. We are here. And I'll just paraphrase everything you said as you guys saw me moving my mouth. And first off, you guys didn't log off. As Team Players Nation, you guys are awesome. That I just went on a 15-minute monologue, essentially. And you guys maintained the audience throughout it, and even some parts of it grew it. But to give the paraphrase, first, Steve, hating upon your Cowboys the entire duration of it. I love that. That is phenomenal. And George Pickens has been a problem since he entered the NFL. And the reality with him is since he was 12 years old, he was the greatest football player who ever stepped upon the field. And the way that we treat super elite 5-star plus talents throughout their journey is there's not accountability, there's not pushing. It's just, please God, don't transfer from my program. So no one ever pushed him. And now we see the situation that you guys got a 3rd-round pick for him for a reason. You saw all year his numbers show that he was a 2nd-round or a 1st-round talent for a trade. But the reason you spent a 3rd was because when things aren't perfect and easy, George Pickens, like many of the top 5-star talents that went to one of the mega colleges before him, doesn't have any heart to push forward. That's the Cowboys' problem in a giant nutshell. And there's not that much of a difference between the way the Cowboys are run and the way the Raiders are run. They are going to be this way until Jerry retires, because Jerry Jones cares more about his personal fame than he does about winning Super Bowls. And there's about 12 or so teams in the NFL that winning the Super Bowl is not their most important metric. It's a nice to have. It's not a must do. And as long as the Cowboys are always that, expect this disaster. But Steve, it's great that you have a 9-5 record. Jason, to go through your stuff earlier, the paraphrasing is your defenses are great. When you're looking at them for week 16, the rankings for 16's defenses are Houston, Kansas City, Philly, Buffalo for week 16 defenses for you guys having buys and looking to snake ahead of them. And Steve, I love your roster here. Now, guys, I appreciate you guys pointing out that we have no audio and that I'm muted, and here we are. Jason, I'm not going to answer a kicker question without us having any of the without us having Bob here. You're just not going to get this. So that being said, let's answer your questions now as you're shooting them back at me, and I appreciate you guys hanging in there with us. Flo, let me answer your question from the beginning that was muted here. Sitting out JJ is phenomenal. It's something that I didn't think I was said would have worked out for you. And at the end of the day, getting that results there is absolutely great. With you having to do with Mbuka, Evans, or Jennings, my answer for you is I need to see where Baker's at come the start of the week. Because with the Mbuka Evans question, it's all contingent upon Baker. Your answer might be Jennings, but Minnesota's playoff schedule is phenomenal. And it's hard for me to try to ignore that when we're looking forward there. So, guys, shooting your questions. I appreciate everything we're sending here. Without Bob, he's doing jury duty right now, by the way, for those of you who sent the questions here. And some of you guys are watching on the vertical, some of you are watching on the horizontal. So you might be seeing questions coming in and left and right, and they weren't they're not showing your individual chat. That's why we're simulcasting across both of these. Want to give a big shout out to my man Jason, who gave us a donation last week, as that was an awesome thing to get there. So here we go. You blame Ortiz for asking 30 questions. Guys, we love the fact that you guys send all the questions in advance. If I missed any of them here in my recap, send them back to me here, and we will get them here as I'm kind of funneling through the ones. And again, I appreciate all of you for sticking in there through the the technical difficulties of having the wrong microphone selected in the beginning of the show. But yes, I am back for you guys. So rolling with Chase Brown, or should I trade for Harvey? I personally would go with Harvey. Two main reasons why. The first is now that Cincinnati is officially out of it, I thoroughly believe that their offense is strictly going to be about producing the Ja'Marr Chase show. Get his numbers, make Burrow excited, make Burrow put up things. And the Bengals being one of those teams that care more about season ticket sales than championships, this is a way for them to rejuvenize their fan base, finally try to sell out the season with season tickets. And the Ja'Marr Chase show is the best way for them to do that, which makes me believe that they're going to give the ball less to Brown. And by the way, if anyone thinks that this type of conversation isn't going on right now, you're 100% wrong. This is how the Bengals are run. And the second thing is, would I rather have Harvey? And the answer is absolutely there. Because one of the things with Denver is that Denver, Peyton specifically, is not letting Knicks off the chain. And Harvey proving himself that he is going to be able to do this is a way to protect Knicks, and especially if you're trying to hide him for the playoffs, which is partly what I think they're doing. I mean, they're 11-2. They're doing it right. And because of that, the upside for Harvey this week and rest of the playoffs is immensely better than Chase Brown, in my opinion. So that's why I would go there. So for tonight, Vidal or Omarion Hampton in a full PPR. This is a personal debate, Story Shade, that I have been going back and forth with this whole week. And to me, talent-wise on the field, it's a no contest. Omarion Hampton is a vastly, vastly better football player. Fundamentally, what this question comes down to me is Omarion Hampton playing tonight because the Chargers feel they have a chance of falling off the cliff, and if Hampton doesn't play, they're out of it. And they have to rush him back from injury. If that is their mindset and you believe that's what's going on behind the scenes, you have to go with Vidal. But if Hampton is 90% of himself or better, Hampton is a no doubt home run, the right decision for tonight over Vidal. And ultimately, that's where I'm landing with this one. Because if he's not, we're going to find out around 7:30 Eastern time that he's benched, that he's not going to get a hat. Because with that Kansas City loss last night, they're now sitting much more comfortable that they're going to be in the playoffs. I don't think that they're ever going to have a chance of winning the division. Denver's just too far ahead. However, if he does play, knowing the outcome of last night's game, it's an even stronger reason that I would go with Omarion Hampton tonight. I just think that at the end of the day, you're going to see probably a 60 to 65% carry share for Omarion, and that's what I'm going with. But again, you obviously got to keep your head on a swivel. Make sure he's not a game time cut for tonight. Rest of the season, no doubt, Omarion Hampton. Who should my quarterback be for the playoffs, Love or Dart? The Giants have a good schedule in the playoffs. However, if you're talking about having just one quarterback on your roster, Frosty, I cannot, in good faith, recommend that quarterback be Dart. Dart is a concussion in the first series of the game waiting to happen. And in Superflex, I can roll my dice on that. In a 2-quarterback league, sure, because he can run it in and give you a home run. But with the playoffs on the line, I cannot ride that roller coaster that he's going to knock himself out in a meaningless game, because he has all the propensity of doing that. It's just not something that I want to bank my playoffs on personally. So because of that, I'm going to go with Love. So what do you make of Pittman's outlook right now? Would you still play him over BTJ? Let me start with the Indianapolis passing game outlook in general, and then dive into the specifics of Pittman and BTJ. Leonard Riley at Notre Dame showed that he can check down to a tight end and run the ball. That's about it. So Indianapolis lost the division lead yesterday, and maybe their hopes of making the playoffs altogether. That's what you're seeing everyone come out and speculate about when they go playoff futures, playoff odds, etc. And here is the reason for that, to give you a behind the scenes prognostication of how you do your math, or at least how you should do your math based upon percentage of outcomes. This is true for betting or any other formulaic that you do it with, is that most players on an NFL roster do not move the betting line. In general, it's quarterbacks and superstars. And when I say superstars, you have to be one of the top 20 players in the league. So if you look to whatever year it was where Rodgers snapped his ankle in the first 6 seconds against the Jets, or as a Jet, and the drop down between Rodgers and, at the time I want to say it was Wilson, it might have been Darnold, but it was one of those Jets quarterbacks who was overrated and blew it, at least in New York. It ended up being a 7-point per game gap in the initial prognostication between how much worse Wilson would be moving forward than the starter, which was Rodgers. And part of that is a twofold thing, is that the reason the spreads, as that spread and that point configuration drops, this is all spread based, your percentage of winning the games therefore drop as well. So when you look at Indianapolis's outlook, they're projecting that where Jones was and where Leonard Riley is approximately a 5.5 point spread. And I understand Daniel Jones was a fun story. Probably comeback player of the year, all that fun stuff. But the reality is, he still was Daniel Jones. His talent level was mid at best. Great situation, and that situation hasn't changed. And I'm saying here right now that the prognostication that Leonard Riley is 5.5 points worse than Daniel Jones is a gross exaggeration. And I do not see Indianapolis's points for plummeting by that much. This team still is run first. Sure, you get shell-shocked in the game that happens. That's normal. But now that they have game planning moving forward, I see Leonard Riley moving the ball in a more intense running effort. It's going to look different, but still producing the same amount of points, which means in general, the same opportunities are there, especially for Warren. Now, to dive into your specific Colts, when we're looking at Pierce and Pittman, you do have to slightly bring them down, but it's Pierce more so than Pittman that I'm worried about in terms of downgrading. Pittman is still the big target, relatively close to the line of scrimmage. Pittman might actually have a maintain to a slight step up as a result of bringing the rookie in. It's going to be a more simplified approach. Pittman is a big man out there who fights for the rock and gets it back to him. So overall, I'm not that worried about Pittman. BTJ, on the other hand, just flat out, I think needs to be on a different program. Like, I think he needs to get traded because he is way too talented to be swimming as much as he is. And that's how I would look at this. So rest of the season, I'm going Pittman. But that being said, I want to see what it looks with Riley, but I'm going to give the Colts the benefit of the doubt. That's a good offensive mind out there who knows what he's got. And by the way, this might be the best thing ever that Richardson isn't there. They might be in the playoffs because Richardson isn't there. Okay. Had a shot at the playoff bye, but still in the playoffs. Awesome, Trone. Worst performance of the year. Had JD and Ertz in the lineups, and they only put up 7. Yeah, no, I mean, that's Washington is in a very bad place. There is no other way around that. Their defense was already not good, talent-wise. And with JD being injured and with the coach announcing after the game, yeah, we could have put JD in, but we didn't want him to get hurt further. I mean, they're already mathematically eliminated. And it's going to be a rough last couple of weeks in Washington. And that's how I would look at it moving forward, in that I really, really am hesitant about JD. I have my roster. I got him sitting on the IR because I didn't activate him last week. And I would be hesitant about putting him in. You can't play Ertz without JD. That's another factor. Frosty, Chicago D as a streamer for week 15. So our top defenses for 15 are going to be in this order: Philly, Niners, Houston, Carolina, Chicago, New Orleans. So yeah, they're a top 5 streamer. I'd go with that. That's not the end of the world. Huge mistake once Ertz went down. I panicked. Dropped Corum for Goddard since he wasn't locked. Corum had a huge day. Your other running backs are CMC, Barkley, Warren, and Gainwell. I mean, at the end of the day, you're starting CMC and Barkley. Worst things could happen. I would try to get Corum back if you're capable of doing that. But that's a mistake, but it's not the end of the world, Trone. I want to be imploding about that. All right, Ham. So I've been offered Debo and Stafford for Henderson. My current quarterback is Love. Who's playing Broncos week 15? Debo or Henderson would be my flex. So Henderson coming off a bye is very, very intriguing to me. In general, across the NFL, rookies perform better post their bye. This is obviously an extreme case, having the bye in week 14, but I would go more with Henderson than Debo, predominantly because of all those reasons I just said in the last question about Daniels. That's how I would go there, and that's why I would do that. Also the guy who offered me that is in the first round. You can trade with who you trade with, man. There's nothing wrong with that. Hey, Jesse, welcome to the party. Essentially, would you rather play Love and Henderson or Stafford and Debo? When you put it that simply, it's Henderson all day. I'd rather play Henderson and Love because I don't think there's that big of a gap between Stafford and Stafford there. Is AD a drop? Close, maybe, probably. Not sure. Probably. The answer to that, Jesse, is probably. As a Mahomes owner, should I pick up Brissett in case Mahomes' needs keeps bothering him? And then would you drop Charbs or Higgins? I'm definitely not dropping Higgins. What I saw out of Higgins last night was solid number 2 material. And if we get to an event where, God forbid, Collins goes down, Higgins is a dude. So I'm not cutting Higgins. Charbs, potentially. And then for your question of picking up Brissett or Mahomes, we've never seen Mahomes in a down and out situation. But what we did see out of him was, if there was any chance of success, all of it was upon his shoulders, and all of it was he will be Superman. Those are great things to go and win a championship with. The problem with Mahomes is that if they get mathematically eliminated in week 17, Mahomes ain't playing 17 or 18. So, do you believe at the end of the day they can still be relevant? Here's their schedule. Week 15, Kansas City is going to be playing. Sorry about this. Kansas City is going to be playing the Chargers. And effectively, what is a must-win game for Kansas City? They lost to the Chargers earlier in the year. And I can see that being a really big game. And I would definitely play Mahomes this week in it. The following week, Kansas City is at Tennessee. Home run smash start. So really what your question comes down to here, Jonathan, because you're going to play Mahomes this week, is what's the outcome of that game? And you don't have any pressure because you get the benefit of knowing that up front. So that's how I would go with it. I would keep Mahomes in no matter what and go from there. So, guys, I certainly apologize for all the technical difficulties that I had here in the beginning of the show. Jason, absolutely no problem shooting off all those questions in the beginning here. But we answer all the questions here at Local Football Flavor, and you guys have sent me all your questions. I want to say this out front. Loved having you guys all with us so far today. Obviously, Bob's here at jury duty, so you don't get him. You're just stuck with me. But if we don't get any other questions here coming up, it's been an awesome Monday, guys. Enjoy the playoffs. This is going to be phenomenal. And I'll see you guys on the other side.